Oh hey, didn't see you there. You caught me on my way back from a gathering Wait, you weren't... No. Were you checking out my resources? Well, can't really blame you. It's a pretty big hole. Jealous? Let me guess. You want me to teach you how to get an inventory full of resources also? Well, you're in luck. I just so happen to have some free time today and can show you everything there is to know about resources in Slime Rancher 2. That's the mechanics, the best gathering routes, and other tips, I guess. So let's not prolong this video any longer. Class is in session. Hey, I just wanted to mention one last thing before we get started. I will be giving 1 month of PC Game Pass away for free to one lucky viewer. If you don't know about PC Game Pass, it's Microsoft's version of Netflix, but with games on their PC store. There's also an Xbox version of it, but that one isn't relevant to this. Anyways, Slime Rancher 2 is on the Game Pass for PC, so this is your chance to play it before you're able to purchase it. I got it for free, so figured I'd give it away for free. And all you have to do to enter and win is leave a comment. But what does that comment need to say in order to count? Well, I guess you'll need to stay tuned to find out because I will be going over the details near the end of the video. Now, back to the guide. So there's a few things you need to know about resources before I show you the best areas to farm them. We will go over their spawn times and rates first. All times I mention will be in-game times, so when I say hours, I mean hours in-game, which would be minutes in real life. Now, when a resource spawns, it typically sticks around anywhere between 12 to 36 hours, but on average, it kind of hovers around the 24-hour mark. That's regardless if you harvest it or leave it alone. Either one, it stays for its designated amount of time. When it finally despawns, the time it takes to respawn is anywhere from just a couple of hours in-game up to numerous in-game days. I've had one node of Radiant Ore take multiple days to respawn. But again, most seem to average out around the 24-hour mark, give or take a couple of hours. Some resource locations seem to be set to have lower respawn windows or guaranteed spawns when you re-enter their area after some time has gone by. I don't know where all of them are at, only a couple, and one of them we will go over in a sec as an example. There are also spawn locations that are shared between two different resources. The Wild Honey shares some spawn locations with Buzzwax, and Radiant Ore shares some spawn locations with the Strange Diamond. For the locations that are shared, Wild Honey and Strange Diamonds have a lower chance of spawning than their counterparts. The exception to that is Wild Honey in this one area I'm showing on screen right now, and I will go more into detail about this area in the Buzzwax and Wild Honey section. And speaking of Wild Honey, I do want to debunk a claim I saw the other day on the Slime Rancher subreddit. Some people were trying to say Buzzwax turns into Wild Honey if you let it sit and don't time jump. Buzzwax does not turn into Wild Honey after being left alone for a certain amount of time. Buzzwax will despawn over time, and when that node goes to spawn another resource, it will choose either Buzzwax again or Wild Honey at that time, if Wild Honey is even an option for that node. And there's one last thing I want to go over when it comes to spawning mechanics. I don't know if this is a bug or just the way the game is designed, but a lot of resources on the map will not spawn until you've been on that map for at least 1 minute. What I am showing on screen right now is an example of what I mean. It's also an example of the guaranteed spawn location I mentioned earlier. I entered this map at 6:07, and as I make it to the Primordy Oil spawn locations up at this pond, you'll notice that all three will spawn at the exact same time 1 minute after I've entered the map. Now, I don't know if this just affects some resource locations at random or only the special locations like this one, as if the game gives you this one freebie for most of them, spawning them all at once, and then from this point forward, they follow the same spawning rules as all the other nodes. It's not like they just all coincidentally rolled to spawn at the same moment. This happens every time I test it, and it's the one question I can't figure out an answer for. But I'll continue to investigate, and if I find anything out, I'll put it in the description and comments. Anyways, all this to say, if I'm going on a gathering run, I will usually wait around the beginning sector of an area for the first minute before I start the actual run. And with all of the spawning mechanics explained, let's now go over the hot and cold system. Each and every resource makes a sound. There's 3 types of sound groups each resource falls under. That's twinkling for the minerals, splashing for the liquids, and buzzing for the hives. This is what each of those sound like. As you get closer to a resource, these sounds get louder, making it easier to know when you're close to a resource and in which direction you need to head in order to find it. But sometimes with the music and other sound effects, it can be a bit hard to catch the sound of a resource as you're zooming by it. So when I'm on a gathering run, I'll just turn down the music volume. One final thing to mention in this section, and it's also a tip, harvested resources on the ground don't despawn, ever. So if your inventory is full and you come across a resource you want, just harvest it and let it fall to the ground. You can come back later to pick it up. And that's all of the known mechanics covered, so now let's get into the meat and potatoes of this video, the best gathering routes. We're going to start off by doing wild honey and buzzwax. Buzzwax spawns on just about every tree and cliffside here, so you really should never have an issue with gathering it. Because of that, we will mainly be focusing on the wild honey route today that sometimes gives mostly honey and sometimes it gives about 50-50 of both. So to start us off, there's going to be a hive spawn right at the entrance of our route and one shortly after it. Then there's this one right over this jump. This next one usually hangs under this log and another can spawn hanging from this tree, while a third can spawn under this cliff that we were just on. Sometimes one is right below us here or over here hanging from this rock ledge. This one up here you can either wait until we get to the top or mess it up doing it mid-air. Then there's one hanging from here and another hanging from this log, while 2 can be hanging from this root. Both these trees in the distance can have one. There's one underneath this root and also above it. This next one hides under here, and then we'll backtrack a little to get back up to where we were. And then the last 2 before we reach the top will be spawning hanging from here and here. Now that we're at the top, one is usually hanging from this tree over here, as well as these distant trees, like I have one in the higher up trees area where I'll be climbing up to now. Finally, we're going to finish off by checking all of the other trees up here, and also pick up one of the wild honeys we dropped from earlier. And just like that, 20 wild honeys in about 2 minutes. Now, on to Primordy Oil. Primordy Oil is a bit different than other resources. It spawns just about anywhere on this map, no real rhyme or reason to it, and there isn't really a specific route for it. Instead, there's just bulk areas it spawns in that I will be showing you. Like this one here that has 3 spawn locations all right beside each other. To get to that area, first we will be climbing up through the cave. And here they are. Usually there's a third one here. The next area is more of a traditional route. It starts up by where the Tabby Gordo used to be, blocking our teleporter. First, we will work our way down. There's Primordy Oil spawns on each of these ledges and 2 at the very bottom. Go across the gap and there's a spot right here, as well as 2 up here at the top. Ignore the spooked out slimes as you make your way over to here where you can find another spawn in this little corner down there. Get lost for a sec and then head over to this water spout and make your way up to the ledge area. Come down to this spot where there is another 3 spawn point area. This final spot for Primordy Oil is a bit hit or miss, and because of that, I don't really know all the areas around here just yet. The first spot is going to be down here, and then usually there's a couple just scattered about down in this area. And sometimes there's one behind this rock. It wants to be a punk. There we go. And like I said, I don't really remember all the spots in this area because I mainly use the other two locations and just come here when I need lava dust. And speaking of, time for the lava dust section. We are still in the same area, just further down that canyon. We're going to start by coming down to the lava. Lava dust just spawns all along lava and is probably the easiest resource to farm, where you don't really need a route for it, but here's one anyways. Lava dust can also spawn on these hardened lava pools. Pretty much any hardened lava pool you see will have a lava dust spawn on it. Here's a couple more areas with spawn locations, but there's no more in this area, so we'll move on to the other half. It's a bit more dangerous over here. Be careful with largos clogging up your vac. Lava dust can usually spawn in this high up area, but there isn't one for us today, so we'll go down here and grab this one. The shoreline over there also has a spawn spot. Now we will head to the third and final area, the cave. This cave has a few dried lava pools in it that can have lava dust spawns on them. I'll quickly circle them as we go. And now we have made it back out to where we started with Primordy Oil and on to the next resource. Jellystone is next and also doesn't really have much of a route, but it is common enough to not really need one when you know where to look. Jellystone and all other mineral based resources spawn in caves, along rock walls, and atop hills, mountains, and boulders. If you start hearing the twinkling of jelly around this spot, the sound is going to be coming from underneath you in this cave down here. There's actually 3 spawn spots down here, with the third one being at the very end by this Z-ball. Another spot is on this boulder, and there's usually one over on that rock wall. Coming down here, there's sometimes one over by this Z-ball. Up top, almost ran past this one right over here. Usually there will be one against this rock wall here. And there might be a spawn in here, but truthfully, I just went into the wrong cave. This is the actual cave I wanted to go in. Next we will come up here, and there's usually one by these boulders. Here's another boulder one is usually up against. Going to backtrack here some because I forgot a spot. There's usually one up against this rock wall, and another at the end of this cave or around this exit. 2 are over here, 1 sometimes on the ground, and 1 hanging from this rock wall. This next one I feel is pretty rare, but you'll sometimes see one in this location. One can be down here and another here. And there can usually be one in here. Another one is up by that Z-ball. Here's another by pesky largos. And another across this gap. Going back to about where we left off in the other area, there's one by this spot. Then we go up the spout and there's usually one by this rock wall, with another kind of just in the middle of that arch. There's another location before the portal. And one more next to the Z-ball back here. And that's the wild area portion, so now let's go over to our ranch because resources can also spawn there. I look at the resources here as the sprinkles on top. I'll grab them as I hear them, but I don't actively search my farm for resources because they seem less common here. Sometimes though, you might hear them underneath you like I am in this clip, and that means there's one in the cave system below, so let's go check it out. And sure enough, here it is. But these rock zits can pop up just about anywhere down here in any one of these caves, along the floor edge or ceiling. You can also find them up along these cliffs that separate your main farm area from one of the unlockable zones, like this one here. They can also spawn over here. As well as a spot being next to these lumps. The final areas are in our other cave location. One can spawn up in this corner, as well as within this tunnel, and this final tunnel as well. And that's all Jellystone has to offer, almost 30 pieces of it. Time to move on to Deep Sea Brine, but before that, since we are at the halfway mark, let's do a song change. Brine starts along the water shoreline of this area, and it's kind of like Jellystone where it's so common it doesn't really need a route. We can start by the boat where there are 2 spawn points. There's another one over here. There's another spot up by the portal, right down below it too, and another one behind it. Here's that Jellystone spot I mentioned earlier. There's another brine spawn right here, which was here earlier, but is now gone. There's one down on this sandy shore. Another off this ledge. There's 3 spawn points along this trail. Here's those 2 Jellystone spawns active. There's a brine spot here. And another here. Come up here and there's one back here. We're going to backtrack a little because I forgot about the 3 spawns back in this other area. Here's one and another one over here. And the third back here, but it's not here right now. Back to where we were before, if we go up this trail, you'll find the last spot of our route before we get back to our ranch and check for the ones there. Down at your pond area, you can usually find one on the sand. And more back in this area. Coming down to our cave farm, you can find brine spawns at the end of each of these tunnels. One here. Two here. You can find one outside this cave tunnel. Outside this one. outside this one, and finally the one coming up that wraps up the brine section with over 30 brine from a single day's work. The final 3 resources we'll be going over are shared between the 2 map locations, Ember Valley and Starlight Strand. The first one will be Silky Sand, which as you would expect, spawns on sand. First, we'll go through the main area that it spawns at on Ember Valley. The first 2 areas will be up here and here. There's another spot over on that ledge. The 4th location is back there with another below it. There's 2 spots here and here. Another spot here and a last spot here. We weren't too lucky, hopefully that changes at Starlight Strand. For Starlight Strand, there's 2 main areas here that will help you walk away with almost 20 sand every time. That's these small areas. I know you would think it'd be this big area, but it actually doesn't have many spawn locations. Every time I do a run here, I'll get over 50% of my sand haul from just these 2 small spots, and they're much smaller, faster, and easier areas to navigate than that large area. This shoreline over here is pretty okay too for how small it is, but we aren't going over there, we're hunting the big fish today. So to start, there will be one right here. There's a spot there and there. Over here. And back here. That's 10 to 15 possible silk sand in this one small spot, and it's on to the next area. There's a couple of spots right where we spawn, and our first active spot is going to be right here. Follow the trail and collect the sand along the way. Down here there's a spot by the chicken nest and another spot down over there. One over here, and 2 over here. And that's all of the silky sand for Starlight Strand. 2 super quick spots for 20 jars. We have finally reached the final resource section, Radiant Ore and Strange Diamonds. They will be sharing a section because they share spawn points. Strange Diamonds don't spawn at every Radiant Ore location, but I'll point out all of the spots I've found them at so far as we go along. I have 50 diamonds in my refinery, so I know of quite a few spots. The one thing I'd suggest though is to not try to farm Radiant Ore and Strange Diamonds specifically. Just gather them as you go because their spawn locations are intertwined with all other resource locations. So you'll get plenty of Radiant Ore and Diamonds just by focusing on other resources and grabbing these 2 as you hear them. And as a reminder, mineral-based resources spawn in caves, along rock walls, by boulders, and atop hills and mountains. One final thing before we start, there is a chance diamonds actually spawn in every Radiant Ore location, but I'm only going to list the spots I've personally seen them spawn at. And with all that covered, the first route is going to be at Ember Valley. We will be starting at the Primordy route start. The first 2 will be here and here. One will be down here, and then we will start making our way back up this mountain. There's 5 spots here, 2 right here, 1 on these slime statues, 1 on the middle platform, and 1 back here. This one and the slime statue one can both be strange diamonds. Here's the 3 oil spawns and a radiant ore right below them. Another one can be right up against this rock, with another off this ledge, but be careful not to fall. Before we go into the cave, we want to climb up this mountain first. There's an area up here that has a Siamese spawn spot with 2 radiant ores side by side. Unfortunately, we only got 1 today though. Now we make our way into the cave and re-record it due to some technical issues with the previous clip. You can find a radiant ore there, a radiant ore and diamond spot here. Both of them spawn here as well. And a 3rd spot for both of them is down here too, and that wraps up Ember Valley. Now we are back at Starlight Strand for the next route. We are starting near the Wild Honey Run. We will make our way into this cave where there will be a radiant ore spot here, another one by this Z-Bowl, and a diamond and ore spot back at the beginning before we leave. We will move on to this other cave where you'll find another radiant ore here. There's also one here and here, that last spot also having a strange diamond spawn. Now we will make our way up to the cave under the big tree, where I've only found one radiant ore spawn under this hole. We're now done with that area of the map and we'll move to the southern part of the map. Going along this trail, you can find a radiant ore here as well as over here. Sometimes one can spawn back here, and I believe up there as well, but I don't currently hear any, so we'll move on. There's a spawn back in this corner, and 2 diamond spawns down here. One up against this back wall and another near the entrance. Coming up here, there can be another radiant ore spot here and one by this trippy gate. We will come down this hole where a radiant ore spawn is right above us. One is here as well. And another hanging off of the ceiling here. Finally, there's a radiant and diamond spawn down in this back corner. We've now made our way out and we'll start exploring the blue side. A radiant ore location is here as well as another back here. One is here. And actually 3 are back here. And one final one back here to round out this spot. This area will be the final spot for this guide. It's small but has a strange diamond location, so I wanted to cover it. You'll find a radiant ore up on this mountain right where we start. Jump across and you'll find another one on the far ledge. Might also find some ores you dropped from a long time forgotten. Jump down this hole, break your knees. Also, you can find this spot which has a radiant ore and strange diamond spawn. And final radiant ore spawn down here. Don't mind me, I'm just using this trick on how to get rid of chicken outbreaks fast that I go over on another video I uploaded alongside this one. It's such a time saver. If you want to learn other game-changing tricks like this, feel free to go watch that video after you're finished here, because there's a couple other ones and it's only a minute long. I mean, come on, look at the difference in speed. Plus, it's great for areas that aren't necessarily right next to water. So I'm just going to be cleaning up these chickens while I talk about the main reason most of you are probably watching, the giveaway I'm doing. And I'm sorry for not getting this video uploaded sooner. I wanted it uploaded by last Saturday, but it was such a hefty boy, I underestimated how long it would take to finish. To make up for it, I'm going to also be picking a second winner for an Xbox Game Pass alongside the original winner for the PC Game Pass I already promised. So, how do you win? Well, it's very simple. Just leave a comment, but not just any comment. Be creative with it. I want to see your best Slime Rancher themed joke, or even a poem, maybe a haiku, or even your idea of a cool slime or a feature you want added to the game. And if you're worried about someone being more creative than you, it's okay. This isn't a creativity contest. I'm just trying to have some fun with it. I'll be picking the 2 winners at random. There's just 3 rules to the contest. Your idea, joke, poem, whatever, must be unique. This is to prevent people from just copying someone else's idea and then winning. I will be watching the comments like a hawk, and I will let you know if your comment is too similar to someone else's and that it won't be entered in to win. Your comment should have what platform you play on at the beginning of it, so Xbox or PC. That way I know which pool of past players to put you in. You can only enter for one platform. Your entry must be submitted by next Wednesday at 5 p.m. EST. That's November 2nd. I will be uploading a video on the 6th of November announcing the winners and need to have the video finished by the 3rd. If turnout for this giveaway is decently sized, I might turn it into a monthly thing, so maybe recommend your friends to leave a comment as well, especially if you already have Slime Rancher 2 and they don't. This would be a great way to get a friend into the ranching life if they haven't tried it simply because they don't want to risk spending money on it and not enjoy it. Now, with the giveaway details out of the way, it's time to wrap up this video with a channel update. Feel free to give me some feedback on how I'm doing, good or bad. What do you like or dislike about the editing, pacing, my rambling, music choice, whatever. I feel like I still need to work on my audio skills, but I'm getting there. Also, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, but not just for Slime Rancher 2. I have enough video plans for Slime Rancher that'll take a couple more weeks to complete, but after that, I'll probably be done with Slime Rancher until more content is added to it. So feel free to recommend me any new or upcoming games you would like to see me cover. But for the near future, the new Pokemon games are right around the corner, and I can't wait to add them to one of the letters on my banner. So stay tuned.